welcome back. Well, as the full moon rises in May, it is known as the full flower moon. This time of wildflower blooms invites pollinators to partake in nature's grand display. Aligning with Bealtaine on the wheel of the year, it's a magical moment for modern green, kitchen, and house witches to connect with the earth's renewed energy, celebrating fertility, growth, and abundance. Historically, Bealtaine marked the movement of cattle to lush summer pastures, earning this moon the names full milk moon or mother's moon. In medieval Europe, May was referred to the month of 3 milkings, emphasizing the season's dairy abundance and activities like butter churning, cheese making, and yogurt preparation. Other names for this moon include the hare moon and the corn planting moon. We're gonna get into making my favorite love spell cake soon, and you definitely need some hefty amounts of butter for that delicious buttercream icing. But first, we'll need to press flowers. It is something that I love to do this time of year when all of the blooms are just bursting. My favorite cake in the entire world is called a love spell cake. It's a traditional Victorian lady cake, and I have an 1800s cookbook called Buckeye's Cookery of Practical Housekeeping. It's still in print today, and that is where I got the original lady cake recipe that I use for my love spell cake. Sometimes it's referred to as a silver cake or a white cake, and you only use the egg whites. Now, to avoid wasting the egg yolks, a rich yellow golden cake or yellow cake would typically be made right alongside it. Now, I also combine it with my buttercream frosting, and for that I use a lavender honey butter, and it is divine. You can make butter with so many different flowers and blossoms, but if you are looking for a cake that is going to impress someone or that is something you just can't get out of your mind, I promise you, I call this a love spell cake, not only because if you are a nifty kitchen witch, you can make it into a wonderful magical working, but because I guarantee anyone who eats it will fall in love with it. So many Victorian era cookbooks came with so many pages of cake recipes. Some are so familiar to us, things like a sponge cake, a lemon cake, or pound cake, but there are so many that are no longer in use, such as an election cake, a queen cake, a Taylor cake, and my favorite, a lady cake. If you're going to make this cake, remember that a white cake is a very delicate cake. So if you're used to baking like a yellow cake or maybe a chocolate cake, it's typical for it to brown on the tops and sides, and that's something you want to try to avoid. Try to keep it as light as possible on the top, maybe just a few little dots where it's just starting to brown and it's pulling away from the sides. Don't overcook it because it will get dry. Just trust me, go to the blog and follow the recipe exactly, and you will fall in love with this cake. There's nothing better paired with a Victorian lady cake than tea. My favorite teas are always served with milk, so I'm going to blend up a flower moon tea, and I'm going to be adding some milk to it. But if you like to make like a latte or blend it all together and make like a flower moon milk, feel free to use this same recipe and put it all together. As the Sagittarius full moon is fast approaching, let's check in on the intentions that I set at the new moon and see what needs to be released now that we are at the peak or midpoint of the cycle. And because Taurus fell into my third house of communication, which is ruled by Gemini, I looked to the shadows of the sign Gemini to see what I needed to release and what I needed to bring in. Now at the full moon, I'm going to be looking to Sagittarius, which is in my 10th house, and that is ruled by Capricorn. So I'll be looking to the shadows of Capricorn to see what I need to be released. Since Sagittarius is a fire sign, I'm using fire magic for this full moon ritual. You can go check out the blog if you want details on how to put this together, but I added a little bit extra here. So on top of the fire magic releasing ritual that you'll find on the blog, I also made a spell pouch, which includes correspondences to communication. So things like yellow or fluorite, yarrow, swords, an arrow for Sagittarius, and to keep aiming for the bullseye, keep my eye on the prize, and anything that tethers to the moon symbols and signs, to tether my intentions to the lunar energy. After the ritual is the perfect time to have tea with our cake. I'll put the recipe below, but it's essentially blue butterfly pea flower, lavender, and chamomile. I like to have this just before bed, but if you want something with a kick of caffeine, feel free to add 2 teaspoons of Earl Grey tea or 2 tea bags of Earl Grey tea to a teapot. Add a little bit of honey or sweetener of your preference. And my favorite part, a little bit of cream or milk. You can make this into a latte if you want to blend it all together, but I think it is absolutely magical to watch it swirl together and to just come together as 2 separate parts that come together. I just think it's a beautiful symbolic action, and it's a beautiful spell. Now, if your flowers are ready, I pressed mine a couple weeks ago. You can use them to top your drink. If you don't want to, that's fine. They are perfect for so many crafts and spells and things that you could do, but they also make a lovely garnish. And don't forget to think about your intentions, your desires and needs as you're drinking your tea, saving the last sip for a reading. Just as the sun is setting, I'm going to prepare my moon water. Now, I'm not making just an ordinary lunar charged moon water, which is perfectly fine, but I'm going to take the idea of a floral essence or flower essence, which is a solar charged water, and I'm going to apply that to a lunar charged water or moon water. Go ahead to the blog. I have a step-by-step guide for you, and I'm going to leave the water out overnight to charge in the full flower moonlight. I hope that this full moon treats you extraordinarily well and that you have a wonderful night, illuminating any shadows and cleansing anything that does not serve you. Blessed be.